G'day YouTube. Okay, so this is my video response to a video by Sablecourt about books and films and which is better. This video has a few firsts in it. For one, it's my first ever video response. For two, it's my first ever video on YouTube with my new Canon 600D camera. Now, first thing I need to point out is I am nowhere near as articulate as Sable is, so you have to bear with me. I may struggle a bit to get my thoughts across as much as she does, but let's see how we go. Okay, so first things first, I wholeheartedly agree with everything Sable says in her video about how books are better than films if there's a film adaptation of a book. Books are better at getting across characters' feelings and emotions. As you can see inside the character's head, if they're written in first person, you know exactly how that character is feeling, whereas in a film, you're like a third-person observer of a situation. You can only guess what a character is feeling. Sure, they pull facial expressions and say things to help you try and understand what a character is feeling, but in a book, you know exactly how they're feeling, as it says it on paper. As Sable also mentioned, the subtleties in books are much easier to get across. One big one that I can think of is take Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. When Rita Skeeter is in her insect form, she pops up a few times in the books just as written into the description of a scene with, you know, a bug on a leaf, or when Victor pulls a bug out of Hermione's hair when they get out of the lake. In the movie, it would have been much more obvious if something like that was happening, where it's just written to the description of a scene in the book, so it's much easier to do that. Films adaptations of books will always lose quality over the book. The biggest one I can think of is Eragon. The Eragon movie was so much different and so much worse than the first book in that Inheritance series. They left so much out, and it doesn't surprise me that they haven't made Eldest yet. Or I doubt they ever will make Eldest, because the movie was just so bad. Sure, if you hadn't read the Book of Eragon, the movie as a standalone by itself was okay, but there was just so much missing that was in the book. Sure, I read the first book and I gave up halfway through Eldest. I'm not a huge reader myself, and I did sort of struggle getting over just how big Eragon was, but it was a decent story, even if some people do say that it is just a rip-off of Star Wars, but that's just their interpretation. But some stories work way better as films, but these stories were not necessarily books first. You know, you look at Back to the Future as an example, which is one of my favourite film series. It's not from a book, it's a director and screenwriters, their idea, which they've decided to make it as a film, and it just works so well as a film. Books that have been turned into films, as Sable said, the best possible outcome is that the film is as good as the book. Film adaptation of a book will never be better, as the book is the standard that the film could hope to live up to. But if you want to fit everything in a decent sized novel into a film, the film is going to be something like 10 hours long. You're just not going to be able to fit everything in there. The film adaptations of books which work best are films which are based off small books, like some of the Dr. Seuss movies they've made recently, like take The Grinch. That book is tiny, so they could extend and expand on that story and fit everything from the book in there, and then a lot more. So that film, if you look at it in relation to the book, was very, very good. Even the latest Charlie and the Chocolate Factory with Johnny Depp, the Tim Burton one. As that book isn't a massive novel, sure, it's got quite a few chapters, but they're not that big, and it's not the longest of books. They were able to put pretty much everything from that book in there. Sure, they altered the ending a little bit, but, you know, I liked how they did. I liked Johnny Depp's interpretation of Willy Wonka, but, again, that's just my opinion. Books will work better for the story that they're written for, because the story, as Sable said, is designed to go into a book. It would need to be altered to fit into a movie. But I'm not studying film, as I say, I'm not a huge reader, so this is all just going off what I've heard pretty much from Sable's video and some of my own opinion. But having said that, When I read a good book, I like to think, wow, I like to see how they would turn this into a film. I'd like to see how this could be displayed up on the big screen, which I love it when they do that. One thing I love was I went to see The Hunger Games on opening day, but I hadn't read the books just yet. So 3 days before it, I decided, shit, I have to read these books. I really want to read the books before I see the movie. I don't want the movie to spoil the book, because I believe, as Sable said, that the book should spoil a movie. So I sped through the first Hunger Games, finished it the day before we went and saw it. Went and saw it on opening day. I'm like, wow, that is pretty close to how I imagined it. But one thing I loved was finishing the book and then going away, straight away, and seeing the movie. So the story was fresh in my mind, so I could easily compare film to book. But the book was better. There was way more in the book. But I disagree with what Sable said, the film being not that great compared to the movie. The film being not that great compared to the book. The book was brilliant. The film was a pretty good adaptation in my mind. They had to speed through a lot of it yet again, because the book, you know, it's a normal size novel. It would take 10 hours to put everything in there. Well, maybe not 10 hours, a bit of an exaggeration, but you know where I'm going with this. So like the flashbacks to when Katniss is starving by the tree and Peter throws her the burnt bread. Well, yeah, they had to show that in a little quick flash rather than explaining exactly what's going on. But that's because the book was written in first person, so Katniss could easily flash back and remember that. Whereas in the film, they just have to show it, and if you haven't read the book, that would be very confusing as what the hell's going on there. It works better as a book, because Katniss knows her own backstory, so it's easier for her to get across her own backstory. But in a film, they have to do it through flashbacks. So it doesn't work in some respects. Having said that though, I did love the film, and I'm really looking forward to Catching Fire. I can't wait to see how well they interpret the clock arena. I can't wait to see that displayed up on screen and how that all plays out, but that's another issue. So yeah, tell me what you think about books and films, and if you agree or disagree with what I'm saying. Go back and watch Sable's video if you haven't. If you haven't watched it and you got to the end of mine, well then a lot of things may have been a bit more confusing for you. Okay, catch you later. Bye.